Hi everyone, welcome to the Barbara and Douglas Bloom Matzah Factory. My name is Rabbi Schneur Silverberg, and today we are going to be making, you guessed it, matzah, in honor of the upcoming holiday of Passover. Now, before we make the matzah, let's talk about why we eat matzah. You see, when we left Egypt 3,300 years ago, we were in a rush. We were rushed out of Egypt right after the 10th plague. We are told that the Jewish people didn't have time to prepare food properly. So they put the dough together to make bread, but it didn't have time to rise before they rushed out of Egypt. And so every year, on the night that happened, which is the 15th of the Hebrew month of Nisan, we commemorate that exodus to freedom by eating the same food that we ate thousands of years ago. Now that we know why we eat matzah, let's talk about how matzah is made. Where does matzah come from? Matzah is made up of two ingredients. We have flour and water. In Hebrew, flour is kemach and water is mayim. But let's take a step back. Where does the flour come from? Flour doesn't begin like this. Flour begins in wheat fields, where the kernels of grain grow at the top of very tall stalks of wheat. The kernels are then separated from the wheat and crushed from the stalks and crushed into flour. Matzah comes in different shapes and sizes, different boxes, and it's all good. But the matzah I want to talk about today is called shmura matzah, handmade shmura matzah. This matzah actually looks remarkably similar to the matzah we ate when we left Egypt. Now, the meaning of the word shmura matzah means guarded matzah. What does guarded matzah mean? Guarded matzah means that the wheat has been guarded from coming in contact with water from when it was taken from the wheat field. Not only in the bakery, all the way back then, the wheat is made sure to be kept dry and protected from water, because we don't want the flour or the wheat to turn into chametz. Chametz means leavened bread. That's when the dough rises, like most bread that we eat. Now that we understand a little bit more about where matzah comes from, let's talk about the making of matzah. As I mentioned earlier, the matzah is made up of two ingredients, the flour or kemach and the water or mayim. What is so important when making the matzah is time. We have to move quickly. We are told that we only have 18 minutes from when the flour and the water are combined until the matzah has to be ready out of the oven. If it takes longer than 18 minutes, the matzah is not kosher for Passover. Which is why, if you're joining me to make matzah at your home, it's important to know that the matzah we're making today is not kosher for Passover. It's model matzah. It's the process of matzah. But this is not matzah that you should save for your Seder table. The matzah that we eat at the Pesach Seder is actually made in a special matzah bakery. There are special matzah bakeries all over the world. Let's take a look of how matzah is made inside a matzah bakery.
Now that we have the special water and dry flour, we can proceed with the baking. Since dough rises by 18 minutes, the entire process must finish before the 18 minutes are done. Let's time it and see how the bakers accomplish this task. The flour and water are mixed and kneaded quickly. Here is the dough. Now it will be kneaded again. This dough is being worked on constantly, so it has no opportunity to rise. The kneaded dough is now rolled out into large, thin circles. This perforator pierces little holes in the dough, ensuring it to remain thin and bake well. The dough is now ready for the oven. The oven must be extremely hot, enabling it to bake quickly. How fast? Let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, that's fast. Stop the timer. 3 minutes, and we have fresh, kosher matzah.
Welcome back. As you can see, the Matzah Bakery is a fascinating place, but you probably noticed one very important part, and that is that everyone was moving quickly to get the matzah prepared so that it doesn't rise and turn into chametz. Now, let's make our own matzah. We have our flour, we have our water. Now, until we combine the flour and water, it's very important to keep them separate from each other. In fact, in the Matzah Bakery, they have 2 separate rooms for the flour and the water to keep them separate. And then comes time to mix the flour and water. We're going to take approximately 1.5 cups of flour and add it to our bowl. And now we're going to add our 1/3 of a cup of water. We'll add it to the mixture. We'll add some now and begin the process of the kneading. Now we have to move quickly, kneading the flour and water. The Hebrew word for kneading is lisha. To knead the flour and water quickly. And slowly we'll add a little bit of water. When you knead the flour and the water back and forth, and after you knead the flour and water for just a moment, the flour and water will have turned into dough. Now that we have our matzah dough, it's time to turn the dough into matzah. To do this, you're going to need a few tools. Luckily, if you received the Matzah Bakery bag, then you have the tools you need. Inside this bag, you'll find a rolling pin and a hole maker, in addition to measuring cups, the flour, and the water. The first thing we're going to do is roll the dough into a flat shape, right? We want it to be nice and flat for the matzah. It doesn't matter if it's round or square or something in between. It has to be flat because matzah is flat. All right, so now we're going to take the rolling pin and begin to roll the matzah dough. Now would be a good time to have an adult set the oven to 475. It's better to put a little bit of flour on the table so that the dough doesn't stick to the rolling pin and to the table. And then just roll it quickly, and make sure to try to get it as flat as you can. Keep on rolling that dough, turning it from a ball of dough into a matzah. Those matzahs are beginning to look really good as they are being rolled nice and flat and thin. We want it to look just like the matzahs that come in the matzah box. All right, now that the matzahs are nice and flat, the next step is to make holes in the matzah. Now, you may have that special hole maker, but if you don't have the unique hole making tool, another easy option is to use a fork. Using a simple fork will allow you to punch holes. So why don't we punch holes into the matzah now? Making the holes in the matzah, make sure that even in the oven, the matzah is going to stay flat and is not going to rise. Punch holes in that matzah, and we are almost ready to put the matzah into the oven. All right, Evan and Maytal, can you hold up the matzahs that you've made and show us the beautiful matzahs? Those look fantastic. We are now ready for the final step of the matzah baking. This beautiful matzah now goes into a special matzah oven. This is not an oven like you have in your house. The matzah oven has to be much hotter to bake the matzah extremely quickly. In the real matzah bakeries, the matzah goes into the oven and is baked in less than 1 minute. That's how hot it is, over 1,000 degrees in the matzah ovens. Let's put our matzah into the matzah oven. Now you can put your matzah into your oven and leave it there for about 5 to 10 minutes, after which it will be ready to eat. And as I said earlier, eat it today. Don't save it for Pesach. But this is the matzah. This is the matzah that we make. I want to finish with one more word which we didn't mention. Another Hebrew word. And this word is emunah. Emunah means faith. Matzah is called the bread of faith because when the Jewish people left Egypt, they had a lot of faith in God. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't have a lot of food. And they went into the desert with faith that because God was going with them, everything would be okay. This past year has been a difficult year, a strange year. There's been a lot of unknown in the world. But just like when the Jews left Egypt, they didn't know what was going to be, but they had faith that everything would be okay because God was with them. We too can remember that with the matzah and at the Pesach Seder, that if we have faith, then wherever we go, we'll be okay because God is with us. Let's now see what our matzah looks like. Matzah is ready to eat. Congratulations, you made your very own matzah. And hopefully, this Pesach, as you sit at your Seder table, you'll be able to share with everyone there everything you know now about matzah, how it's made and why it's made, and you'll enjoy delicious kosher for Passover matzah. Thank you for joining me at the Barbara and Douglas Bloom Matzah Bakery. I hope you have a wonderful Passover.
Comes around, he changed his name, but I can hear his sound. Knock, knock, Pharaoh's at my door. He's bringing slavery to tie my hands, to blind my eyes to see. But I've got a little bit